Hi, I'm Ziyu Zhou, and I'm joined by Anne Heslop. In today's Federal Flash, we have updates on 3 coronavirus-related issues: legislation to support home internet access and close the homework gap during the pandemic, a House Education Committee briefing on remote learning and education equity, and new guidance from the Education Department on equitable services and the CARES Act. 2 topics we will cover in this edition are the final Title IX regulations released by the department and House Democrats' new $3 trillion proposed coronavirus relief package. Because there's been so much news this week, we'll cover those topics in a second bonus edition of The Flash this week. Let's begin with an update on legislation to address the homework gap. Anne?
This week, 46 Senate Democrats, led by Senators Markey, Schumer, Cantwell, Van Hollen, Bennett, Hassan, and Schatz, introduced legislation to direct $4 billion to the E-rate program to help close the growing homework gap during the pandemic. The legislation is nearly identical to the Emergency Educational Connections Act, introduced by New York Congresswoman Grace Meng in the House, except that it makes one significant change. The Senate bill increases the appropriation from $2 to $4 billion. When Congresswoman Meng introduced her bill, education groups believed coronavirus school closures would only last through the current school year. As school leaders have come to suspect the crisis will last much longer, it's clear that more funding will be needed to ensure students have home internet access so they can participate meaningfully in virtual learning. The Emergency Education Connections Act is supported by over 50 education-related groups, including All4Ed. In urging passage of the bill, All4Ed President and CEO Deb Delisle said, quote, "COVID-19 isn't just a health crisis, it's an equity crisis and an education crisis. The homework gap is going to widen the achievement and opportunity gaps unless we provide all students with home internet access and devices so they can participate fully in remote learning, particularly those who have been historically underserved." For more information, see the link below.
Last week, the House Education Committee held a virtual member briefing on remote learning in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Panelists discussed challenges delivering virtual learning, how schools are working to address equity gaps in remote learning and instruction, and the importance of federal aid to help schools respond to the coronavirus. One witness, Marlon Stiles, superintendent of Middletown City School District in Ohio, had this to say about equity and students being locked in or locked out.
Now that schools are shut down and engaging in remote learning, the equity gap is taking center stage in this country. The nation's students do not have a choice in their learning experience when it comes to remote learning. It is already predetermined if these students will be logged in or logged out. Students either have a device and reliable internet in their home or they do not. Students are either logged in or they are logged out. Logged in students are at home engaging and learning on a laptop. They have daily virtual access to their teachers for guidance, instruction, and support. Logged in students are using a variety of educational digital platforms to support their learning. Logged in students are able to virtually participate in meetings with their peers. Logged out students are at home without a device and without reliable internet service. They pick up packets of worksheets to complete at home. Oftentimes, logged out students do not have the supplies to complete assignments found in the packets. These students wait for letters in the mail or phone calls from their teachers each and every day. The logged out student is not receiving a high quality education right now. These students are accustomed to the barriers to gaining an education, but the remote learning happening right now creates even more barriers that they must overcome.
Superintendent Stiles is one of the nearly 4,000 superintendents who have pledged to use technology to personalize education for all students through All4Ed's Future Ready Schools initiative. To hear the rest of Superintendent Stiles' remarks and watch the full briefing, visit the link below.
Across town, the U.S. Department of Education recently released guidance on equitable services under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. The CARES Act included billions in aid to K-12 school districts, and according to the legislation, This funding must provide equitable services to students and teachers in non-public schools in the same manner as it does under Title I of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. Under Title I, children who are at risk academically and who live in Title I school attendance areas but enroll in private schools instead are entitled to receive equitable services from their local public school district. The district and private school then negotiate what those services will be and how they will be provided. The new guidance, while non-binding and without the force of law, has interpreted equitable services under the CARES Act to apply to all students enrolled in private schools located in the district, not just those who are low achieving and residing in a low-income Title I school area. The department argues that CARES Act aid is available to all public school students and teachers, not just those that benefit from Title I, and therefore the same principles should apply to equitable services for private school students and teachers. This interpretation has raised eyebrows on Capitol Hill and among education advocates because they fear the guidance will shift funding intended for public schools and low-income students towards private schools and wealthier students. Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro of the House Subcommittee that oversees education funding commented that the CARES Act clearly intended equitable services to focus on low-income students, not all students attending private schools. The Council of Chief State School Officers, as well as membership associations of district superintendents, school boards, principals, and teachers have all written to Secretary DeVos asking her to reinterpret the guidance so that it aligns with Title I of ESSA. We'll keep you posted. That's all for today. For an alert when the next Federal Flash is available, email alliance@allfored.org. Stay home, stay safe. Thanks for watching.
Federal Flash is the Alliance for Excellent Education's video series on important developments in education policy in Washington, D.C. Watch online at allfored.org/Federal Flash, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or listen to Federal Flash wherever you get your podcasts.